As a kid, all a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from everybody. Life lesson learned, I better learn from this bitch, nobody. She pushed me around, she didn't give no motherfucks about it. She broke my heart 3 times, but I ain't getting...
Notre Dame pulls off the upset against Clemson 47-40 in double overtime. This is the second greatest college football game I have ever watched in my 18 years being alive on this earth. And you want to know something funny? The two greatest college football games I've ever seen both featured Notre Dame. Okay, you had this one, and I don't know if a lot of you guys remember this one, but 2014, where Notre Dame played Florida State. A lot of you guys may not remember that Florida State team, but this was that Florida State team led by Jameis Winston. And they were always down big, but they always ended up rallying from behind, always coming from behind to win games. And that game, to me, still stands as the greatest college football game of all time that I've watched, because I was so emotionally invested in that game. That game really played with my emotions because I hated FSU so bad that year for some reason. Not just because I'm a Miami fan, but I just didn't like FSU. And it really broke my heart where Notre Dame scored the game-winning touchdown just for it to get called back due to an offensive pass interference call, which led to FSU sealing the victory. I will never forget that. I literally cried. I swear to you, I cried. I was, 12, 13 years old, and I cried when Notre Dame lost FSU that game. And this game was just as good. This was like a tug-of-war match. Notre Dame looks like they were going to dominate Clemson after the first half. But then in the second half, Clemson, they make some modifications, they make some halftime adjustments, and they get right back into the game. And the momentum swings in this game were so big. That's why I say this game's like tug of war, because Notre Dame looked like they had all the momentum in the first half of this game. Then Clemson, in the second half, looks like they had all the momentum on their side. Then next thing you know, you think Clemson's going to seal the deal, they're going to win the game. Notre Dame drives down the field and ties the game up to send it into overtime. I don't think a lot of people were expecting Notre Dame to do that. And you got to give props to Ian Book. Ian Book is the most underappreciated quarterback in college football. A lot of people try to compare Ian Book to what Jake Fromm was with Georgia. But tonight, Ian Book was an absolute superstar. And to beat some of the best teams in college football, you gotta have a superstar quarterback. And Ian Book played like a superstar tonight. Not only what he was able to do throwing the football, but what he did with his ability to run the football with his legs was incredibly impressive against a really solid Clemson defense. And when Notre Dame struggled to run the football in the second half, they were able to still pick up yardage with Ian Book and his ability to use his legs. And Ian Book is a better athlete than what a lot of people give him credit for. Like, I didn't even know Ian Book was just good as an athlete until, like, last season when he had a big game when he was also doing damage in the run game. And Clemson's defense had no answer for it. And what's crazy about it is Ian Book isn't a guy that has crazy 4.4 speed and things like that. Like, he's just fast enough that he can pick up chunks of yardage if you give him space. Clemson, they were rushing three, dropping a lot of guys in the coverage. Ian Book was recognizing that, and he was just taking that easy yardage. And I felt like that was something that Brett Venables could have did a lot better in terms of containing Ian Book. You had guys on Clemson's defensive line that were losing contain. Like, I felt like Brett Venables could have made some better adjustments in terms of trying to keep Ian Book from dominating the game the way he did. You also have to give props to DJ Ukulele. He went on the road and went toe-to-toe with Notre Dame. And that's something that really frightens me as a Miami Hurricane fan, because as a Miami Hurricane fan, Trevor Lawrence is leaving. And it looks like we're not going to get a break, and the rest of the ACC is not going to get a break, because as soon as Trevor Lawrence leaves for the NFL draft, I don't think Clemson is going to have a drop-off at all. I think that DJ Ukulele is going to be able to come in and pick off right off where Trevor Lawrence is going to leave off. And for all of you guys who are going to come on here and ruin this game by saying that, oh, Clemson would have won if they had Trevor Lawrence. Like, come on, man. Don't do that. You lost fair and square. Notre Dame played an incredible game. Travis Etienne got shut down this game. He only had 18 carries for 28 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. A lot of teams have not been able to shut Travis Etienne down the way Notre Dame was able to. Okay, now Notre Dame secondary, they got carved up. DJ Uiagalelei carved up this Notre Dame secondary. And I want to see what's going to happen the second go around if these two teams end up meeting again in the ACC championship game in the next couple of weeks or so like we expect them to. And I want to see what this Notre Dame defense is going to do against Trevor Lawrence. I want to see what are going to be the adjustments, because if DJ Uiagalelei was able to carve up this Notre Dame secondary, imagine what Trevor Lawrence is going to do. So if you're Brian Kelly, you need to go back and watch the film and figure out what can your secondary do better, because Clemson's wide receivers, pretty much Amari Rodgers has been their most consistent wide receiver, but they had a lot of guys making plays in the passing game for Clemson, which was really unexpected, because when we think about Clemson, we know they have 4 and 5 star guys at the wide receiver position, but it's not really any noticeable names currently playing right now other than Amari Rodgers. So the fact that Clemson was able to have other guys step up and have big games in the passing game is really huge, because that's something that Clemson fans have kind of been looking for the whole entire season. Other guys who are going to emerge in the passing game, giving DJ Uiagalelei more help. So what impressed me the most, once again, was Notre Dame when they went down the field and took the game into overtime. Notre Dame at that point had all the momentum on their side. And you got to think, I'm pretty sure nobody expected Notre Dame to go down the field on the Brent Venables coach defense and get the game-winning touchdown with Ian Book at the helm at quarterback. That was an incredible drive. That has to be one of the greatest and clutchest drives in college football history. Ian Book doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the greatest athlete. But one thing about Ian Book that you have to respect that was on display in this game was his grit. It was his toughness, and what he did with the game on the line. He constantly came through for Notre Dame. A big reason why Notre Dame over the years has not been able to beat teams like Alabama, some of the powerhouses in college football, is because they haven't had a quarterback that has ever been able to properly rise to the occasion like Ian Book did tonight. Ian Book put on a performance that we are never ever going to forget. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you're going to be telling your grandkids, when you become grandparents in the next 30, 40 years, whenever you become a grandparent, you're going to be telling your kids about the night that Ian Book led Notre Dame to the upset victory against Clemson at home, because Ian Book played an incredible game, and you have to give him credit. I don't care if Trevor Lawrence played or didn't play. Ian Book put it on for the city tonight. He put it on for, I don't know what city Notre Dame is located in, but he put it on for Notre Dame University tonight. He did. He carried that team. He really did. And Notre Dame, one thing that I had about Notre Dame is that they didn't take a lot of shots deep. Well, I mean, Ian Book was pretty efficient with the deep ball in this game the few times that he did go deep. So I don't know if that should be a knock on Clemson. Maybe their secondary isn't as good as I initially thought. Or maybe Notre Dame's wide receiver position, or their passing game, at least when it comes to attacking the field vertically, is a lot better than what I initially gave them credit for. And the people going into this game were like, Notre Dame struggled against Louisville. I was like, I'm one of those people. I'm like, look, I understand teams have bad performances. But when you have a team like Notre Dame, that's what, 8th in total team talent according to the 24/7 team talent composite rankings. I told everybody, I said, look, even though I chose Clemson to win this game, I said I would not be surprised if Notre Dame pulled off the victory. Notre Dame is really good. And without Trevor Lawrence, you even the odds. This was an incredible game. What made this game so incredible was the fact that how evenly matched both of these two teams looked. And you never knew who was going to win the game, because it was so many momentum swings in this game. When Clemson looked like they scored that touchdown the first time they touched the ball in overtime, they got that touchdown, I thought Clemson was going to win. Notre Dame, I didn't think Notre Dame was going to be able to respond. I didn't. Then you had that critical fourth and a mile, whatever you want to call it, for Clemson to remain in the game and pick up the first down. A lot of anticipation was built up inside of me. And I was watching this game to the very end to remind you that it is currently 12:18 a.m. Eastern Time, And I'm tired. I'm drained. I haven't really had a full night's of 8 hours of sleep since what? In like 2 weeks. So, and I was awake for every moment of this game. I made sure that I didn't miss any big moments in this game at all. This was an incredible game. One thing about Clemson, you turned the football over too much. You had 3 turnovers in this game. You couldn't convert on third down. You were 4-15. That was another big reason. Notre Dame outplayed you. And it may not be reflected in the scoreboard, but Notre Dame outplayed Clemson. They were 10-19 on third down. They didn't turn the football over as much as Clemson. They won the turnover battle. They were +2 in the turnover margin. I mean, Notre Dame did everything that you got to do if you're looking to upset a team. It's 2 important things that you have to do if you want to pull off the upset. First, you have to be able to keep the drive alive on third down. And you also have to be able to win the turnover margin. Notre Dame did both of those things. And Ian Book played an incredible game. So I'm really interested in seeing both of these 2 teams match up in the ACC championship game. And as a Miami Hurricane fan, listen, I don't want to see Miami face Clemson again in the ACC championship game. I'd rather see us play Notre Dame. Being honest with you, because Clemson playing Miami again is going to be another blowout. Like, no, isn't. When it comes to Clemson and the rest of the ACC, not including Clemson, not including Notre Dame, because they're not in the conference long term, they're just in the conference for this season. When it comes to Notre Dame, they are pretty much the best team that Clemson has faced in ACC conference play in a very long time. And as a Clemson fan, Clemson, you needed this L. Because you can't get better by blowing teams out. The only way you get better is by being in close games like this. Because you find out how good your team really is when they face adversity. This is the first time in a very long time in the regular season that we've actually seen Clemson face some adversity. And this was on the road. So this is a loss that could potentially make Clemson an already better team than what they already are without Trevor Lawrence. So you guys let me know what you guys think about this game down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more college football videos and content. And thanks for watching.